Hello and welcome to the Gamut Livestream, where we have bite-sized conversations with business leaders and technical experts about embracing change and transforming the way that you work. Today we have with us Derek Peacock from Elif Global. Derek's going to be sharing Elif Global's G7 journey with us. Derek, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, Kelsey. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
Very nice to have you with us. Thank you so much for your time. I also wanted to thank the audience for their time and for joining us live today. Because you're live, we would ask that you say hello to us in the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to submit your questions via the comments. We're going to take those questions. We're going to answer them either throughout or at the end of our session here. And if you haven't followed us yet, please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn so you can get notified for the future Gamut live streams that we have coming up as well. So Derek, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Elif.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Kelsey. It's good to be here. And again, I'll introduce myself first and my company as well. First, my name is Derek Peacock, and in the packaging industry now for 42 years with pleasure. And I've now been with Elif for 5 years. I am the Group Design and Print Quality Senior Operations Manager, and my role is to lead design and print quality into the future. Today will be my second year supporting Idealliance as a G7 expert, plus a member from time to time taking part in the Print Properties Committee. So the last 2 years, Mike, I've been part of the G7 and Idealliance family. Anyway, I'd just like to thank you, Idealliance, for inviting me along today to talk about Elif G7 journey as a global benchmark company for flexible packaging, who is partnering along with our long-term leading brands, blue chip multinationals, to innovate for their success. Elif is a global business with over 1,600 employees on 2 sites. Our bases are Istanbul, which I'm based in myself, and Cairo, and we supply more than 210 production sites in more than 50 countries worldwide. That's a little bit about myself and Elif. So let's talk about our journey, Elif, and what we've done with G7. Our story started a journey 2 years ago when I first heard of G7 by a brand owner. To be honest, I really was unaware of the meaning of G7. So I made some inquiries with my contacts, which actually came to a dead end. And as some said, it was just, sorry to say, a marketing tool. I wasn't convinced 100%, as I see Asia and America ahead in the game and Europe very quiet. So guess what? I contacted Idealliance Europe, Alan Laylaw, and we had many meetings, and I convinced my board of directors to attend with my colleague on an on-site training in Antwerp, Belgium, with Mr. Ron Ellis, who is one of your trainers. I had some doubts whether this would work, but finally, I'm really glad that we went. G7 methodology is a standard winner. For me, every printer must undertake this. This is the future. My colleague reaction was worth seeing how G7 methodology was worth his attendance. After we both qualified after the examination as G7 experts, the next question is how Elif can push this into our system, internal system. Where do we go next? I decided to partner Idealliance to having an Istanbul site hosting for November 2020 to gain our facility as a site. However, as we know, due to the pandemic situation, as we all know, the world changed. But with Idealliance going to online training, this was a unique opportunity to partner yourselves and to make Elif the forefront in Europe. We moved the event to this year, March 2021. Because we're now online, I decided to make a small team with one of our partners who had a G7 expert as well in Turkey, to bring our facility into G7 methods. My team are experts in their field in Elif, but not in G7. We looked at our fingerprints and our charts. We made mistakes, and having support along the way, we gained our facility back in October 2020 as a colour space site, not just the basic one or the targeted one. We had the colour space site. The results were incredible and outstanding. And not only Elif became colour space facility, we were the first wide web printer in Turkey. This was our first success in G7. So the question next was, as we're hosting an online training this year in March, I decided to endorse the methods, but instead of having a couple of experts on site, I decided to look at how G7 can work on the whole of Elif process from start to finish. My board of directors saw the success we'd already obtained, and they've given us great support with my plans to create 7 further G7 experts. This enriches our whole process. I had the belief that G7 can enhance the process. Of course, I spoke with you guys, Idealliance, to inform yourselves what we were going to do, and I've had a lot of support from Idealliance Europe in our time. So March came around in 2021, and I added further 7 G7 experts on board from all the Elif process. Some had little print knowledge, but the intense training gave them the insight to what G7 is all about, bringing repeatability and predictable in results. Elif is an inspiring workplace, and we add values to each employee. G7 is another added value. So today, where we are with Elif, 2 experts, 2019, that's myself and my colleague. We have 1 site facility in colour space in 2020, and 7 further experts to endorse the whole Elif process, bringing colour and related issues into corrective actions with our process. And that means we're not only Turkey's biggest set of experts, but in Europe, we're also big, having gained experts across the entire process. So we call it the G7 methodology. But we're not going to stop there. We want to make further plans, and this is why we have the journey. ECG is on our cards for our hybrid operation. So we will take upon ECG. We will put our Egyptian operation into facility, and we'll make further advances into our process. And of course, I'll attend some of the print properties committees for new ideas and methods, ISO updates, etc. with Ron Ellis. Like any company, we've had our challenges to bring about change, but the key is about standardization with driving quality changes. It's not been easy, but the results we've seen are worth it. And as I say, standardization is key, set process methods, and of course, Idealliance G7 training is excellent, I have to say. The G7 methodology is a perfect proof point for Elif's continuous adaptation to changing markets, because our customers and consumers require even more innovative and sustainable solutions. What are the success criteria for Elif in our journey? Well, hitting the targets using grey balance and tonality, of course. Press approvals was our big point. Why? Because we took over 2 hours or more. As an example, I created 7 approvals for a new client, all within a 15-minute approval maximum online. Our new client was very impressed, and this shows me that the G7 methodology works. We increase our standards and practices, and in today's world, Elif has overtaken some of our working repro partners with the amount of G7 experts we have, and now they're also endorsing G7. So that just shows, how far Elif have come. Sustainability is part of our DNA. We offer solutions for future challenges. I'm totally convinced G7 will offer the tools to work alongside with sustainability in the future. My conclusions is that my directors and the board of directors and the top management have supported the changes. Idealliance really gave excellent training and really good support, especially from the Idealliance Europe section. Blue chip brands are endorsing and love the G7 methods. And I'll tell you this, that G7 opens doors to clients who normally just pass you by. So in the tender issue, is you mentioned we are G7 facility. You have a door opener. It brings success, but you have to be open to change, and you have to believe the way I believed and the way that my directors and Elif management supported. We have been brought a lot of success. Our success and global reach are what makes Elif a trusted partner worldwide. As I said to my children in life, you do or you don't. Whenever they've asked me a question, it's you do or you don't. If you do, you can always walk away. Or if you don't, you'll regret. Elif, my management and board supported my efforts for G7. We went ahead and we did. I have to say G7 methods are the future. I have to be honest. That's our story so far. We will continue it. I hope you've enjoyed listening to our success.
Derek, it's really an inspirational story, and it's just beginning. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Derek, could you share some more details about standardization for the flexible packaging market? How important is adopting a global standard for the way that you work?
It's very important. You have to have a standardized ink set. You have to have a standardized Analox rollers. You have to have a standardized practices and training methods for all our operators. As I keep saying, standardization is the key. So wherever in your business world or your operating plant, you have to ensure that standardization is across the board. We even, when I have now G7 experts right across the whole process, we are standardizing. We had a standardized process. Don't get me wrong. We believe we had a standardized. What we're doing is taking that standardization now to the next level, to include the G7s, to include how this will work in, hitting the targets, reduce press approvals. So, it's all about, it's like trying to, I wouldn't say reinventing the wheel, but you are looking to make things perfect. I know it's in an ideal world, nothing will ever be perfect, but we can try and get there.
Thanks, Derek. You shared some stories about working with customers. Could you share more detail about what it was like working with Elif before G7 and after G7? What's the customer experience like?
Customers' experience has always changed over the years, and I've been here 5 years, so I saw the customer experience 5 years ago. I saw it 3 years ago, and there was a change. There's an emphasis now on consistency. We, as Elif, always have to make efficiencies. So consistency is becoming more and more important, but again, also quality. The quality in the packaging now on shelf determines whether a customer, price as well, but a customer always looks at the packaging. And I'm forever looking at packaging around the supermarkets more than actually spending in the supermarket. So but that's my job, to look at the quality side of it. But even with color measurements these days, a lot of emphasis is coming now on quality. G7 methodology brings that added value into quality. And our clients, they're not sitting on the fence. They're still there. We have a lot of blue chip clients around the world. When you talk to them in meetings and we talk to them about G7, they're sitting up and listen. What can G7 actually do for their brands? Not just about what Elif's doing, but what can G7 do for their brands in terms of quality, in terms of, if they, as I said, with our new clients, I told them we put it on G7. I told them a lot bit about it, tried to explain because there was a language difference as well. But they were fairly impressed because their previous supplier, they said, could take over 2, 3, 4 hours, trying to get it right. This is almost like right first time approach.
Yeah. I feel like that's the curse of being in this industry. You can never just casually browse packaging or menus or anything like that. You always have to inspect it basically forever.
Yeah, believe me, Kelsey, if you ask my wife, she hates me going shopping in supermarkets because I spend more time looking at the packaging than I do buying the products. Even though I have the trolley, she grabs it off me to go and because we have a time limit.
Yeah.
But, working in print and packaging, I'm sure all the audience here will know the same thing, is that they're always looking at competitors. They're always looking at packaging. They're always looking for new ideas. But the way I've taken this in 2 years, I've taken almost not knowing anything about it with G7 to the point now where nothing else will be, okay, there'll be other quality methods come along, which we'll take, but we will push G7 into the next phase and beyond. That's why I made a team of 7. I may include more in later date, but these guys are now going to take the next steps into the future, and we will continue with this. And whatever comes around from the Print Properties Committee in that, we will look at it and see, can we endorse it into Elif? As I said, we're looking to be the forefront in Europe for ideas, for quality, for everything. I'm sure every company will tell you the same, but you can either say it or do it, or you don't do it, as I said to my kids.
Well, I thought the discussion about the grocery store is an important point. Consumers interact with the package at the shelf. They're seeing the appearance of it. It has to look great in order to win over the consumer. But really today, to bring a product to market, there are multiple things that are important: quality, speed to market, and cost. And so are all of those things coming together with the way that Elif works on the packaging?
Yeah. We have timelines. When a design starts brand new, of course, we're the end chain, being the printer and the extruder and also the converter. So our timelines get reduced because when you have designers and marketing people together, they are, changing, looking at things, how we can do it better, but the printer, at the end of the day, is always, time is being asked to be reduced. When you're launching a new product, like some of our blue chip clients do, we get asked to make it in a week. We get asked to make it in days sometimes because they have a deadline for their production plants. they have a deadline to launch. This is, I have to say that G7 does come into this to help speed up the process, and it makes us a lot more comfortable than maybe we were 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And each project counts. It was great to hear that press approvals could go from 2 hours to 15 minutes. That makes a huge difference for the brand owner and for your team, right?
Well, yes, it does, because, as I say, today, the whole pandemic has changed the world. You can imagine that, sort of, let's go back 2 years ago. Our clients were coming to Elif. They were flying in the day before. They would visit us and probably may do 2 or 3 approvals a day. When you take an average time, let's say for 2 hours each approval, they're on site, probably early in the morning till late at night. I've done it myself as a press approval in my previous job, and not everybody's excited about going to press approvals and having to sit in an office, going to an approval room, asking for changes. But nowadays it's done online with a bit of flexibility. So, Elif does this online. Our customer came online, and as I said, within 15 minutes, we had the first approval. Of course, we have to make some changes as well. Instead of them seeing it, we have to send the samples off. We can continue with production, because we're the eyes and ears of the customer. But we can send them samples, and when they got the samples, we put them side by side online, but they also put it side by side. The backgrounds all met. They were very happy. The targets were met. It was just, it's incredible to actually see that.
Mm-hmm. We've got a great audience today tuning in from all over the world. We have a question that came in that says, that asks, tolerance is acceptable for chroma and hue for OGV. Can you comment on that?
Say that again, Mike. Sorry.
I think
the full question is how much tolerance is acceptable for chroma hue for OGV.
For OGV? That's a good question, and I'd like to take that one offline if I could, to give a more definite answer on that.
Yeah, we're happy to follow up with questions, and if anybody has any offline questions they'd like to ask, you can get a hold of us and connect with us on LinkedIn, message us on LinkedIn, or reach out through emails as well. Derek, Kelsey and I have been talking about sustainability. We know it's a very important part of Elif's work. Kelsey, you want to ask some questions about sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit ago about the benefits of G7 working towards your sustainability goals, but exactly like how does standardizing the process help you reach your sustainability goals?
We're not 100% of the sustainability goals, because as we know, sustainability in 2030 will change. It'll change the substrates. There's a lot of clients in the industry worried about artworks changes, how they will change the colors. But when you take Ron Ellis's training, when you do G7 methodology, there is a way to substrate correction in that. But also, I'm sure that we will look at the sustainability side of this to take this even more towards when the new substrates come along, however we want to call it, recyclable substrates or, methods. And I think that the G7 whole approach to all that is that, the brand owners will not have to change the artworks, as a lot of them fear. They think that it's going to be a whole artwork change, or they think they're not going to be able to get the same color on what they have today, especially the brand logos. It might be like changing how can you say, like a gloss to a matte, maybe in the future. But what we do here, and we target the sustainability. I'd like to see more from sustainability, and I'd like to see this from an additional point within the G7 method, especially using the substrate correctness, and to see how far how far we need to push G7 a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. As you know, we have a training coming up with Ron Ellis, May 24th through the 28th. Derek, what would be your advice to anybody who's thinking about getting started with their G7 journey?
I took the whole approach 2 years ago. Yeah, I had some doubts, and I think everybody will have some doubts about it. You've heard today what Elif has done. Not everybody will do what Elif is going to do. I'm sure every company has its own standards. I admit that I've got a great board of directors who have supported this in our sense. I say it again, you do or you don't. You have to look at G7, first of all. You have to take the G7 course. I was lucky enough in Antwerp to be on that course with a lot of color management experts, and I mean color management experts. It opened their eyes, and it opened my colleagues' eyes. And I was watching my colleague more than I was watching myself. But it's you do or you don't. And if you do, you can always say, yes, it works, or no, it's not for us. But if you don't, maybe you'll always have that regret. And I'm glad from our point of view, and what Elif's done is that I have no regrets. From that, I've seen how Elif have developed from 2 years ago to where we are now, and where we're going to go in future with this. So, from our point of view, yes, we will go ahead. But if our competitors or around the world choose not to do that, that's their goal.
Yeah, sage advice from you, Derek. You and some of your team members have been to the open houses that we host to get answers about doubts for G7 or how it might work for your company or others. Would you recommend anyone interested hopping on to join a virtual open house to ask the questions?
Of course. If you have doubts, like I did, the open houses weren't there 2 years ago. We had to push ourselves to go to this training because it was on site at our printers. Today you have technology and you have online. You have the open houses. I've been on with many with Ron Ellis. For me, Ron Ellis, and you've got fabulous trainers, but Ron Ellis is a very, very good, knowledgeable person. I like him as a brother. He has knowledge, and he will answer any questions you've got. If you have any doubts, and of course, it's very, as I said, it was quiet in Europe. It's developing more. If you talk to Asian G7 experts, if you talk to American G7 experts, they will probably tell you they're glad they did it. I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad that we were given the chance to be able to push Europe, because, as I said, Europe was very quiet. The open houses are great to attend. Even though I'm an expert, I still like to attend those open houses just to add some of experience that I've got. Again, with these open houses, you know, it will give you some insight into this. The rest is with Idealliance Europe or America or wherever. But I do believe that, yes, you should attend them, because this is the way forward.
Thank you, Derek. Before we end, I really want to thank you and your team and your organization for all the hard work that you've been putting in to advance the industry and make a difference for your customers. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much for that. And you know, the whole team has made a huge effort in this, and I just want to, you know, congratulate you and thank you for that.
No, thank you, because 2 years ago, Alan persuaded me, your MD at Idealliance Europe, and we've never looked back. So, you know, thank you for having Alan on board.
Of course. Yeah. If anyone has more questions that they'd like to ask Derek, please feel free to reach out direct to him. Derek, is there a good way to get a hold of you? Would LinkedIn work? Where can people learn more about Elif?
Yeah, I'm available on LinkedIn. As there are a couple of Derek Peacocks, so you know, be sure I'm the good-looking one. But you know, people can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. That would be the best way. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. So if anybody comes across that, you know, I'll
slide into Derek's DMs, you guys.
And what's the best way to learn more about Elif? Is there a website people can go to, or
we have a website, of course. We have a LinkedIn page, Elif Global. We do have we've just revamped our website on there. We have some corporate videos and lots of other things. We have our sustainability experts on there as well. So, you know, I don't have the website actually with me at the moment, but if you look on Elif Global and see our Elif logo, you know, the website is always on there. Anybody can have a look at it.
Excellent. Amy, thanks so much for popping Derek's LinkedIn profile link in the comments there. Thanks, Derek. Thanks so much for your time. We're going to wrap up here. So grateful for your time on today's Gamut live stream. We will talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
I'm sure, because you're going to hear what else we're going to have to do with this whole G7 method.
Looking forward to it.
Very excited. Thank you so much, Derek.
Yes, sure. And have a nice morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.